If I told you there is a massive multi-billion-dollar restaurant chain hiding in plain sight that makes almost zero profit on its food,
Right.
but pulls in a staggering 92% profit margin on like blinking lights and digital tickets, you'd probably think it was a total financial scam.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds completely fake.
It really does. Because, you walk through the doors, a host seats you at this really comfortable booth, you smell burgers on the grill.
You hear the clatter of plates.
Exactly. Plates clattering, and you see dozens of massive screens broadcasting live sports everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
So your brain immediately categorizes the space, right? You think,
Yeah.
okay, I am sitting inside a traditional American sports bar.
Right, but the financial reality of that building you're standing in is, well, it's something else entirely.
Yeah. It is a brilliant, highly calculated illusion.
It really is.
Yeah.
The visual cues are, they're entirely designed to disarm the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
The food and the drinks are merely the bait. Yeah, the actual economic engine of the entire operation is hidden in the back half of the building.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are taking you under the hood of a massive entertainment empire by dissecting a single, incredibly revealing document.
And it's a fascinating one.
It is. It's the official SEC Form 10K annual report for Dave & Buster's Entertainment, Inc.
Filed for the fiscal year ending February 3, 2026.
Right. And our mission for you today is to break down the underlying business mechanics of this company. We really want to explore how they engineer fun into high-margin profit.
But we're also going to uncover why, their financial reality in 2026 is showing some undeniable structural stress fractures.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, so to truly understand this business, we have to kind of strip away the restaurant facade, right? We have to look at the actual revenue breakdown.
Right, the hard numbers.
Exactly. So across their 243 venues, and that consists of 179 Dave & Buster's locations and 64 main event stores, entertainment is not just a side hustle.
It's not just there to keep the kids busy while the parents buy expensive appetizers.
No, not at all. In fiscal 2025, amusement and entertainment accounted for 62.9% of their total revenue.
Wait, really? Over 60%?
Yeah, nearly two-thirds of the money flowing into this entire company comes directly from people swiping digital cards to, shoot virtual zombies or play simulated basketball.
That completely flips the script on how we usually view hospitality.
It completely changes the model.
And the real jaw-dropper in this 10K isn't just that top-line revenue percentage. It's the profitability of those arcade swipes.
Right.
The report reveals a 91.9% gross margin on entertainment.
What's fascinating here is the underlying mechanism that makes a 91.9% margin even possible.
Right, because that's unheard of in the restaurant industry.
Oh, it's impossible in the restaurant industry.
Yeah.
To grasp it, you really have to look at the brutal economics of traditional casual dining.
Okay.
Like if you order a steak, the restaurant faces this cascade of unavoidable physical costs, right? They have to purchase the raw beef, pay for refrigerated transport, store it safely.
Pay a prep cook to season it, a line cook to grill it.
Exactly. And a server to bring it to your table.
Right.
Every single step of that physical supply chain just eats away at the profit margin.
Plus, if the cost of beef spikes or, a storm delays a delivery truck, the restaurant's margin just evaporates instantly.
Yeah, it's a very high-friction transaction. But an arcade game operates a lot more like a software-as-a-service company.
Oh, that is a perfect parallel, like a sauce company.
Exactly, because the cost of a customer playing a digital racing game involves almost zero marginal cost.
All right.
Once the machine is purchased and it's installed on the floor, the cost of an individual playing one round is literally just like a few cents of electricity.
A microscopic amount of wear and tear on the plastic steering wheel.
Yeah, and perhaps the wholesale cost of a branded plush toy they might win with their digital tickets.
So for every $10 a customer loads onto a gameplay card, the company is keeping over $9 as gross profit.
Basically.
That's wild. They have essentially insulated themselves from the volatility of food costs and kitchen labor that, crushes normal casual dining chains.
Exactly. The restaurant simply gets you in the door and keeps you in the building.
And the software pays the bills.
The software pays the bills.
Mm-hmm.
And because that software is printing money at a 92% margin, it is fundamentally changing the architectural shape of the physical buildings they lease.
Oh, right. Let's talk about the real estate strategy outlined in the 10K, because it's a massive shift.
It is. Historically, Dave & Buster's built these massive cavernous complexes.
Like huge.
Yeah, we're talking up to 70,000 square feet.
Which is what, nearly 2 acres of indoor space?
Almost 2 acres, yeah.
Hmm.
But the new strategy targets much smaller formats. They're shrinking the footprint down to as little as 25,000 square feet.
See, I have to pause and challenge the logic on that.
Okay, go ahead.
If the arcade games are generating a 92% profit margin, my basic instinct would be to build the biggest box imaginable, right?
Right, you'd think so.
Why wouldn't you want a million-square-foot warehouse packed with thousands of highly profitable games? Shrinking the store just seems counterintuitive if the core product is that lucrative.
I get that.
Yeah.
It sounds counterintuitive until you look at the unit economics of commercial real estate,
Okay.
and specifically, return on investment. The denominator in any ROI calculation is the initial capital spent, right?
You're right.
Building and outfitting a 70,000 square foot entertainment complex requires a staggering upfront cash investment.
Millions and millions of dollars.
Exactly. By shrinking the box to 25,000 square feet, they drastically reduce the capital required to open a single door.
Oh, I see. Which means they can build way more stores with the same amount of money.
Exactly, spreading their bets across a wider geographic area.
That makes a lot of sense.
And it unlocks secondary and tertiary markets. You cannot drop a 70,000 square foot mega venue into a mid-sized suburb.
Right. There just isn't enough dense foot traffic to sustain the overhead.
Right. But a 25,000 square foot venue thrives in those smaller markets. And their stated goal in the filings is an aggressive cash-on-cash return target of 30% in year one.
Wow. A 30% cash-on-cash return means they expect a brand new location to generate enough cash profit in its very first year to pay back nearly a third of what it costs to build it.
Yep.
They are aiming to be entirely in the black on the construction costs in just over 3 years.
And you only achieve that velocity by aggressively optimizing the square footage.
Oh, so?
Well, they're actively shrinking the back of house. So smaller kitchens, less dry storage, tighter prep areas.
All to maximize the customer-facing square footage.
Exactly. The area dedicated to those high-margin simulation and redemption games.
But, this brings us to a massive contradiction in the 2026 filings.
Oh, yeah. The numbers.
Right. We've established that the core product operates at a 92% margin. We've established that they are ruthlessly optimizing the physical buildings to be lean, capital-efficient machines.
So why do the fiscal 2025 financials look like an absolute disaster?
Yeah, the numbers for FY 2025 paint a very grim picture. Total revenue dropped 1.4% to $2.1 billion.
Okay.
Comparable store sales, which measures revenue at locations that have been open for at least 18 months, that dropped a highly concerning 5.0%.
A 5% drop is huge.
It is. But the most alarming metric is the bottom line. In 2024, they posted a net profit of $58.3 million.
A solid profit.
Right. But in 2025, that profit just evaporated. It flipped into a net loss of $48.7 million.
Wow. So that's nearly a $100 million swing into the red in a single year.
Yep. And Wall Street certainly didn't miss it. The stock symbol, PAY, plummeted from $162.23 in early 2024 all the way down to $57.11 by February 2026.
Ouch.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we see a textbook example of how macroeconomic headwinds can break a highly optimized business model.
Because this entire operation relies on one very vulnerable fuel source.
Right, exactly. Consumer discretionary income. It's the ultimate elastic expense. I mean, when inflation drives up the cost of groceries, rent, and gas, families are forced to triage their budgets.
They have to.
A trip to the arcade for laser tag and overpriced appetizers is like the very first thing cut from a household budget.
Definitely. And the mechanism that turns a seemingly minor 5% drop in comparable sales into a massive $48 million net loss, well, that's a financial concept called operating leverage.
Okay, break that down for us.
So Dave & Buster's operates with massive fixed costs.
Yeah.
Regardless of whether 100 people walk through the doors or 0 people walk through the doors, the companies still have to pay the commercial lease on that 25,000 square foot building.
Right.
They still have to pay the massive electricity bill to keep hundreds of arcade cabinets running.
The AC, the lights.
All of it. They still have to pay the base hourly wages for the management, the technicians, and the kitchen staff.
So the revenue covers those fixed costs first, and the actual profit is only generated by the last 10 or 15% of the sales volume.
Exactly.
Oh, wow. So when that top layer of revenue vanishes because consumers are staying home, the profit doesn't just dip, it gets entirely wiped out.
Right, exposing all those fixed costs underneath.
And those fixed costs were actively surging at the exact same time revenue was falling, weren't they?
They absolutely were. The 10K heavily emphasizes severe wage pressure.
Right.
The hospitality industry has faced intense scrutiny regarding minimum wage increases and, the elimination of tip credits in various jurisdictions.
Which is huge for
Oh,
restaurants.
massive. For a company that relies on thousands of hourly service workers, if the regulatory baseline for a server's wage jumps from, say, $2 an hour to $15 an hour, the fixed cost of simply opening the doors skyrockets.
Add to that the extreme seasonality of the business.
Right?
The report points out that the third quarter, the fall back-to-school season, is historically a dead zone for them.
It really is. Families are settling into routines. They're spending their discretionary income on backpacks and school supplies, not, arcade credits.
So you have inflation squeezing the consumer's wallet, wage pressure inflating the company's baseline operating costs, and a built-in seasonal drop-off.
It's a perfect storm. The operating leverage works in reverse, and it just heavily amplifies the losses.
While the executive team was battling those macroeconomic storms, the 10K reveals they were simultaneously fighting a series of bizarre, almost invisible operational hazards.
Buried deep in the risk factors section.
Yes. And I want to highlight one operational tweak that is genuinely brilliant in its simplicity.
Oh, I know which one you're going to mention.
In fiscal 2024, Dave & Buster's officially changed its fiscal year-end from Sunday to Tuesday.
On the surface, shifting an accounting calendar by 2 days seems like the most mundane administrative footnote possible.
Right, but think about the mechanics of closing the financial books for a publicly traded company.
It's a massive undertaking.
Exactly. It requires pulling final inventory numbers, reconciling thousands of credit card transactions, locking down the annual revenue data.
And under the old system, the corporate accounting team had to finalize those massive annual numbers at 11:59 p.m. on a Sunday.
Which happens to be one of the highest volume operating periods for a sports bar.
It's madness.
You have locations packed with people watching Sunday Night Football, ordering last-minute drinks, swiping game cards, and the accounting team is trying to, freeze the ledger.
Yeah, moving the fiscal year end to a Tuesday, which is historically the slowest day of the week in the hospitality industry, that was a pure sanity preservation move for the corporate team. This raises an important question, though, about the other hidden liabilities lurking in the 10K.
Because a calendar shift solves a logistical headache, sure.
Right, but the company is facing complex legal and security threats that cannot be fixed by just moving a date. Look at the legal risks surrounding abandoned and unclaimed property laws.
Oh, this detail is wild. Let's walk through the mechanics of this.
Me too.
Millions of customers buy physical gift cards or load up digital gameplay apps, right? After a few hours of playing, a customer might have, say, $1.42 left on their card. They put it in a kitchen drawer and completely forget about it.
And most people assume the company just absorbs that unused $1.42 as pure unearned profit.
Exactly.
But under escheatment laws, state governments view those unredeemed balances as stored value.
Like abandoned property belonging to the consumer.
Precisely. The states argue that if the customer didn't spend the money, the company hasn't actually earned it.
Wow.
Therefore, the state government actually has the legal authority to demand Dave & Buster's hand over the cash equivalent of those forgotten balances.
So states are actively trying to seize the loose change, sitting in millions of forgotten game cards.
Yes. And the 10K notes that the company has historically not remitted these specific funds based on their own interpretation of the law.
But they openly list it as a massive risk factor.
They have to. Because if states successfully audit and challenge that interpretation, Dave & Buster's could suddenly be legally forced to pay out millions of dollars in cash liabilities for services they never actually rendered.
It is an invisible financial threat sitting in the wallets of their own customers.
Exactly.
And speaking of invisible threats, we have to look at their cybersecurity disclosures.
Yeah, this is a big one.
Operating a modern entertainment venue requires an immense digital infrastructure. You aren't just dropping quarters into a slot anymore.
No, not at all. You're swiping credit cards at self-serve kiosks.
You're downloading a mobile app that tracks your physical location to send you, push notification promotions.
You're creating loyalty profiles filled with personally identifiable information.
So an arcade in 2026 is essentially a massive data harvesting operation.
It really is. And the 10K reveals that the threat landscape became so severe they had to form a brand new information security leadership team in 2025.
And this wasn't just an internal committee passing around a PDF on password safety.
Yeah.
The filings note they were conducting active tabletop exercises with outside legal counsel to prepare for potential breaches.
The inclusion of outside legal counsel in those tabletop exercises is a crucial detail.
Why is that?
Well, when a company simulates a cyber attack, like a ransomware event, locking down their point-of-sale systems, or a breach exposing customer credit card data, they often uncover severe vulnerabilities in their own systems.
Right, that's the point of the exercise.
Exactly. But by having outside legal counsel direct the exercise, the findings and the discovered vulnerabilities are often protected under attorney-client privilege.
Oh, that is sneaky, but smart.
Very smart. It shields the company from having those exact security flaws weaponized against them in future shareholder lawsuits or regulatory audits.
Wow. It shows they view a cyber breach not as a mere IT headache, but as an existential legal threat.
Because it is. A major data leak would completely destroy consumer trust in an environment that is marketed entirely as a carefree, safe space for families.
So, what does this all mean? We have mapped out a business model that boasts a 92% gross margin on its core product, yet is bleeding $48.7 million a year.
Yeah.
They're caught in a vice grip of wage inflation, highly elastic consumer spending, aggressive escheatment laws, and constant cyber threats.
It's a lot to deal with.
The burning question is how Dave & Buster's plans to climb out of this crater.
Well, the 10K outlines a very specific two-pronged turnaround playbook.
Okay.
The first prong is domestic, and it directly connects to our earlier discussion about optimizing the real estate.
Shrinking the footprint.
Right. So in Q3 of 2025, they launched a back-to-basics culinary menu.
Which is a masterclass in cause and effect within a business operation, really.
How so?
Well, when you shrink the physical footprint of a new store from 70,000 square feet down to 25,000 square feet, the kitchen inevitably loses massive amounts of prep space.
Oh, right. Less fryers, less cold storage.
Exactly. You simply cannot execute a sprawling, complex menu of 100 different items in a tightly constrained back of house. The physical space dictates the culinary reality.
That makes perfect sense.
So the Back to Basics menu strips away the fluff. By reducing the number of ingredients and bringing back historically proven favorites, they are engineering the kitchen for sheer execution speed.
Because less prep time means the food gets to the table hotter and faster.
Right. And it also requires less highly specialized kitchen labor, which directly combats the wage pressure we discussed earlier.
It all ties together.
Faster ticket times in the kitchen mean higher table turnover in the dining room.
The overarching goal is to feed the customer efficiently so they can get out of the booth and back onto the arcade floor where that 92% margin is waiting.
Exactly. But streamlining the kitchen only stops the bleeding at home. If the U.S. consumer is entirely tapped out by inflation, you can't just cost-cut your way back to growth.
No, you can't. You have to find a consumer whose wallet isn't completely squeezed yet.
And that is the second prong, international expansion.
Right. So by February 2026, the company had successfully opened 4 locations abroad.
Where are they?
2 in India, 1 in the Philippines, and 1 in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah.
And the filings detail plans for 37 total international franchise locations.
Wow, 37. To penetrate these brand new markets, they are utilizing a proprietary dynamic pricing model, right?
Yeah, and the mechanics of this dynamic pricing system are fascinating. Because the arcade games are essentially networked software, the company can adjust the digital cost of a game in real time.
Wait, like surge pricing for an airline ticket or a rideshare app?
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
Through their central API, they can change the credit cost of a game of digital basketball based on the time of day, the day of the week, or even the current foot traffic in the building.
That is wild. So a family visiting on a sluggish Tuesday afternoon might pay significantly less per game than a couple on a high-demand Saturday night date?
Precisely. They can algorithmically stimulate demand during dead zones and maximize revenue during peak hours without ever having to print a new physical sign or update a menu.
That's incredible.
Combine that software-driven pricing with highly localized food offerings designed by regional franchise partners, and they are exporting their high-margin Trojan horse to entirely new continents.
And doing it without taking on the heavy corporate overhead of building the stores themselves.
Exactly.
They're essentially licensing the illusion.
That's a great way to put it.
Oh.
As we step back from the granular data in this 10K, the tension at the heart of this entire enterprise becomes incredibly clear. On a micro level, the level of a single arcade swipe the business is a wildly lucrative, highly optimized cash machine.
But on a macro level, it is entirely at the mercy of the broader global economy.
Right. The machine is built perfectly, but it only runs on discretionary income.
And when inflation drains that fuel, the entire engine stalls out, exposing massive fixed costs and hidden legal liabilities.
It is a constant tightrope walk between operational efficiency and macroeconomic reality.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Okay.
We've spent this entire deep dive analyzing the financial mechanics, the real estate strategies, the operating leverage, and the data risks.
Right.
But zooming out, there is a massive existential question looming over the actual product itself.
The fundamental nature of what they're selling.
Exactly. Think about the core appeal of the arcade for the last 40 years.
Okay.
Historically, you went to an entertainment venue because they had access to cutting-edge hardware that you couldn't possibly afford at home.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The hydraulic racing simulators, the light gun shooters, they were light years ahead of a home console.
The venue possessed a massive technological moat.
Yeah, you couldn't get that experience anywhere else.
But today, that moat is completely evaporating. I mean, we have hyper-realistic virtual reality headsets sitting on our living room coffee tables.
That's true.
We have cloud gaming infrastructure that can stream photorealistic cinematic experiences directly to the smartphone in your pocket.
Yeah.
The technology inside our homes is rapidly becoming indistinguishable from commercial arcade technology.
So the hardware advantage is gone, which really leaves only the social experience.
Right. So the final thought for you to mull over as we wrap up is this. As home entertainment technology fully catches up to what you can find in a commercial venue, will the purely social aspect of gathering at a Dave & Buster's be enough to command our increasingly limited discretionary income?
It's a huge question.
Or will the simple, nostalgic thrill of winning a branded stuffed animal eventually lose its magic entirely in a fully digital world?
It really is the ultimate test for the industry. Are consumers paying for access to the game itself, or are they paying for the shared physical experience of playing it together in a room full of strangers?
We will have to wait and see what the next round of SEC filings reveals. Until next time, keep digging.